Talk show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 586. My name is Eric Nelson. With me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Langeth. Today is Wednesday, December 22nd, 2021. Matt, happy holidays. How you doing?
Same to you, sir. Happy holidays, and happy holidays to all of our listeners out there. Can you believe it's already the end of what has been yet another year of interesting developments and deployments and security patches and health and whatnot? And here we are.
Here we are at the end of the year. Nothing has stopped us, which is great. We've been dealing with the log J bug for the last, week now, right? Fire Drill had to find all the SaaS companies that we have interlocks with and verify that they've taken action. It's been a fun year. Never slows down, does it?
It really doesn't. It's constant. There's always something else out there, right? It's IT. It's the minute that you get comfortable, something else is coming along. But before we get into all of that, sir, I have to ask my favorite questions. You know, how are you doing personally? How is the weather out there? And what is the color of the bay?
All right. Well, I am doing fantastic personally. Oddly enough, I was kind of like struggling through November, December, and something happened in the last few days where I've just gotten energy back and I'm excited. I'm excited about next year. I think what happened is I've heard some good things about VMware for next year. I've heard some good things about Ragu. So I actually flipped the light switch on where I'm excited about working at VMware again, right? Like it was a slog for the last 6 months or so, but some good things coming, right? I really am excited about where we are. It turns out that we rang the bell for Wall Street.
I saw that. Right. Yeah, that was a big deal, right? We can now be relisted.
Right. And there's just things that are happening now that behind the scenes that I get to experience that I didn't really think about. I can't talk about them, right? And they're not like amazing, oh my gosh, we're getting bought by nothing like that, but just what I see Ragu doing now as we enter into next year's planning. If you're an IT person, you should be excited about, being involved with VMware because I got to say, I'm pretty excited about that. So that's me personally. I feel pretty good and I'm energetic. The weather is rainy. It has been raining. We've had rain for the last few days. We've actually had now a super wet November and December. So I think we're up double our normal rainfall, which trust me, we've been in a drought for 3 years. So
yeah, does that get close to alleviating any of the drought situation out there for California?
Yeah, absolutely. California is a weird thing in that if we get 5 good rainstorms, reservoirs fill up. That's it. We're done. So we really don't have a huge amount of capacity, but then we get a lot of rain when these storms come through as well. So if you get 5 rainstorms a season, and these are big kind of like storms that come through for like 5 days or 4 days, that's all we need. And we're fill up. And I think we're on our 3rd storm and it's not the end of the year yet. So getting 2 additional storms through January and February is pretty realistic. And sometimes they'll go to March. So yeah, we can fill back up. I think the water table, in the land, not the reservoirs, but the water table would need like this for probably 10 more years to bring the water table back up to where it has historically been through the first half of the 1900s, right? So we have brought the whole water table for the Western states down by, 100 yards, right? Like it's, so farmers have had to, that's not a drought problem. That's a society using too much water problem. So
it's just it's a different level of reference, right? I mean, there's the historical level, and then there's dealing with what you folks out there have been using for the how do we say it? The new average levels for your water tables that are out there,
right? And what happens is. What actually happens is the water table, when we have a drought, the farmers just drill deeper, right? And there is a massive water table under the Western states, right? But, we augment farming for the nation by drilling deeper wells and pulling more water up. And we're trying to manage that now. We haven't managed that for the last 100 years. We're starting to do it now, but we're down 100 yards from where we started. So there's a lot of water, we need to bring that back up or change our water use habits. But from a local drought perspective, reservoir available water, it's been a good year this year, which is great.
You know, on a somewhat related but completely separate note, there is a YouTube channel called Practical Engineering. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Maybe our listeners have. That did a case study on the Orville Dam, of the failure of the dam itself, how it occurred, and then the repairs that went into it, and what they had to do, and how they had to do it within the limited season that they had. So in other words, there was the constraint of, this is a functional dam. We can't shut everything down just because we have to repair the spillway. It's a great little series. It's probably about 2 episodes that are a half hour each. Really technical, and just a great listen through from, you know, someone that's technically minded that doesn't understand all of the engineering aspects that go into, you know, civil engineering and water retention and everything that you're dealing with, all of the EPA elements. It was an interesting story to not only hear about the failure and how that occurred, but then what they had to do to repair it in and of itself.
I did watch that one. It was excellent because I did not know. And I think it is like the number 1 largest expensive repair project ever in the United States, right? Where
the number that they had quoted was something like $1 billion. I don't know if it's, you know, that where that ranks it as far as repair projects, but it certainly has to be up there at that price.
Most major projects don't go over $1 billion, building them brand new, right? So to repair something at $1 billion, that's a pretty big repair project. And then the weather, it's raining, so it's cloudy, and the color of the bay, it is a dark green, choppy, right? This is it. This is midwinter storm season. Gotta love it. It's fun to get out and look at the bay because it's you know, bay isn't very deep, so it tends to wave up a little bit. So fun to look at. Right. So that's where we're at on the show today. We're going to be talking about the campaign we're running over the holidays. We're going to talk about the holidays in general, but we're going to be talking about the 12 Days of Kubernetes campaign that we got going. So if you want to go into 2022 and you're looking for a fun project to do, right, and you have some downtime over the holidays, or maybe even through January to our end of our year, we've put together 12 steps. 12 Days of Christmas kind of goes along with the saying, although we shouldn't really say Christmas, we say holidays, but it's the 12 Days of Christmas song where you get on the first day of Christmas, my true love brought to me a partridge in a pear tree. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about those steps and things that you can do to get up to speed. And midway through, we'll talk a little bit about you know, building your own home lab. We've got some tasks in there that you can get your own home lab up and running. And Tanzu has the community edition, right? That we announced. You can get a free version of Tanzu, layer it on top of Vsphere, and do that all nested, and away you go. You should be able to update your resume and have some fun over the holidays if you're so inclined. So we'll talk about that. And before we do that, Matt, the expert
applications, yes, they're open. They will be open. I believe the date that they close is January the 14th. So as we've been saying now for a couple different episodes, 1, get your application in, and 2, if you have questions about the application process, whether that's you're returning vExpert that just maybe hasn't applied in a while, or you're just considering the program for the first time, use the vExpert Pro directory available out at vexpert.vmware.com to find a vExpert Pro that is in your geographic area. Reach out to them, ask questions, have them review the application, and use that as a resource to help you in applying for the program.
Excellent. And I know Corey's busy. I talked to Corey. He said I think they've got like over 1,000 applications already in. So thanks to everybody that's already done that. Appreciate that. And then we'll go from there. So the article, the 12 Days of Christmas. But before we get into the 12 days, Matt, I see you've got a sweater on. Do you knit? Where do you get these holidays?
Yeah, I'm a giant knitter, Eric. That's just really my side secret hobby that I just
right
really
up there
haven't
with
revealed to the world.
Right up with your gas grill, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes, my outdoor oven, as you and Corey love to refer to it. No, this is just me being fun and festivus today. Those that are joining us over on youtube.com, I believe it's VBarbecue, BARCU, BARBECUE. Yeah,
it's like
I always,
yeah,
it's the your native spelling, right? BARBECUE. Yes, correct. So if you're watching this on the live stream, you can see my terribly ugly sweater. It's just something fun and festive, and just a little bit different than the normal Oxford color dress shirt. So,
and I got to say, as long as we're talking Christmassy here, I got myself a Christmas present of sorts. The VMware campus has opened up, right? And your badge can now work. And so I went up there and checked out the campus, right? And
was there cobwebs in the recording studio?
Yes, it is. It is like one of those movies where the Earth has, all population has gone away and there's nobody left. Me and Kripa met up there, and literally, I think we saw one person the whole time. We were like, and like everything is
674 days later.
Frozen in time. So, for instance, Julia Klaus, who does the video stuff, she's moved to Florida. She hasn't worked in the campus for a year and a half now, right? You go by her cubicle, her desk is perfectly set up. All her stuff is still there, right? Like the picture frames, everything is like Julia, like got evaporated, right? Like a radio thing, just pulverized everybody, and all that's left is perfect. And you go cube to cube on campus, and it's exactly like that. Like there's people that have left VMware, and because they haven't really let anybody in the buildings, right? So most people don't collect their stuff if they leave the company. So you would go by, those people, that person left a year ago, and everything's there. The picture frames, everything's there. They water the plants. It's very surrealistic to get on campus and see what that looks like. But I digress, because there were people that left, and there are monitors that are around. And I have a big Dell monitor that I never had at home. Couldn't get back into the office. Couldn't get into the podcast studio. Couldn't get my microphones or anything. They wouldn't let you in. They just, sorry, batch doesn't work. We're not letting anybody in. So I managed to get the Dell monitor and bring it home, and it's one of these Dell 36-inch semi-curved monitors. No, I'm Matt, I know you're there, but I'm old school. I've been running on like a little 22-inch dual 22s. When you get one of these big ones, it changes your enjoyment of sitting at your screen. I actually like sitting down now at my computers, and so it's exciting to have a new big monitor.
I think you went with the right size of ultra wide screens. For whatever reason, just because I think it was the latest and greatest, went with the ultra wide 49, the U4919, and it's just too wide. It just, even with multiple screen management and whatnot, and being able to snap to windows, it just is a little bit too big. And I think the 36, for a practical application, not to mention the literal desktop real estate that it would take up, might be the ideal size. So I'm glad to see that you were able to go into the office and grab that. And I'm ad-libbing here because I think I just lost Eric.
No.
We lost your video.
Oh, okay.
We can.
Do you have my audio?
Yes, we can hear your audio. 5x5.
5x5 audio works. I have the U34, and I'll have to get my camera back up and running because I power cycled it. I just turned the monitor off because when you turn the monitor on, it comes up with a model number. So I'm like, this will be good. I'll check the monitor. But I didn't realize that it has a USB hub in it, and I have the camera on the USB hub of the monitor now. And of course, it turned my camera off, right? As it start cam. Allow, and looky here.
There we go.
I'm back.
Amazing.
But yes, I have the U34, so I don't even.
So it's the 34-inch.
That's right.
Still ideal compared to the 49. 49 is just a little bit. I'm sure that there's people out there that have the 49 that absolutely love it. It's just not my cup of tea.
I didn't think I was going to like the curve, right? Because I'm kind of a flat. I've always worked on multiple flats, right? And that's what I had here before this. But I'm actually liking the curve. The curve is nice. Now this isn't the 46, so I don't get that much curve. It's only a 34, but nonetheless, I like it. I was so excited because and my daughter was over this morning. She holiday season, and we're talking Christmas up, and she works at a tech company in San Francisco, and I'm like, oh, Tori, you should come up and see my monitor. I got a new monitor. I'm really excited. Come on upstairs and see my office upstairs. And she comes up. She goes, oh, that's okay. Mine's bigger. I've had a bigger one for like 3 years now. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Thanks a lot. Yeah, well, I like it. I'm coming into the modern world. All right. With that, that is my holiday. My holiday present to myself is like, wow, look, I have a nice new big monitor. And obviously I can turn off the power and turn off my video camera all at the same time. Awesome. So let's get over to Kubernetes and let's talk about what we've got going. So the URL, it's on the vExpert blog. Corey,
blogs.vmware.com/vExpert. You should be able to find it from there.
Should be right on the main article. I think it's the last one he posted for the holidays. So
that it is.
Go check that out.
12 Days of Kubernetes right there at the top of the blog post.
Right. And then what our goal was to kind of give you something to do to learn Kubernetes with this campaign. And so that's what we did. Looking for 12 Days of Kubernetes here. The expert directory. There it is. The very first one. Got it. No image. All right, cool. So if you go there, we have 12 tasks that we have set out that allow you to learn Kubernetes. And this was all around, Matt, the Communities Edition, right? Because to the Tanzu Community Edition, we didn't want to do marketing of just Tanzu. We want to kind of make it generic for learning Kubernetes, but it is kind of a Tanzu flavored, where you get through halfway through and you're now setting up Tanzu Community Edition in your home. And the idea behind Tanzu, the Community Edition, is it is free, right? And so we've taken it, made it free. I don't know if they've open sourced the Community Edition or whether they're just making it. I believe that it might even be an open source project that's behind that. I'll have to go Google that while we're talking. But the concept is that, yeah, it's open, it's free, and
it is an open source distribution.
Right. That's what I believed. Right. So, so the concept is we kind of do a community, because in the community space of open source, that's what it means, right? When you do a community edition, it's open sourcing your Tanzu.
Well, some manufacturers that are out there have the community edition, right? And that their interpretation of how they may deploy the community edition, as far as whether it's open source or how long it's allowed to run or whatnot. But this is a true open source project.
Right. Right. And that's pretty neat. So if you know Red Hat and their community edition, same thing. You get their community edition and the community's participating in it. So that's good. So that's what we decided to do these 12 steps, because William Lamb has also got good articles up on how to get things set up. And a lot of people have been engaging with the community edition, and we realized that there's some good content out there, but you got to go hunt for it, right? How to get started. So if you haven't played with Kubernetes yet, or you haven't been had time to engage with Tanzu, then this might be for you, because what we're trying to do is take you through. So day one, 12 days of Kubernetes, the Kubernetes task. It's an easy one. Get going. It's just a 5-minute video that you watch with Steve Tegler walks through the Kubernetes fundamentals for beginners. So if you haven't played with it yet, and we are putting this out on social, there's a hashtag called 12 Days of K8s, right? So Tommy Berry and the social team have been tweeting each one of these out. Now we're kind of, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably pretty senior. So we're giving you you can binge the whole campaign by just going to the blog and looking at all the steps. But we are releasing these out, Tommy's in social, one at a time. So day one, day two through the holidays, right? So kind of fun there. 12 days of Kubernetes. Matt, everybody has 5 minutes to go watch a video, right?
Especially just to serve as a starting point, right? If you have no reference of what Kubernetes is, why it's so important, why we talk about it to the level that we do, this is a great primer of why is this relevant? Why do I need to take the time to follow along here? And where is this going to fit into my career path, or how can we particularly deploy this solution out to our environment and solve potential problems, or enable our developers that are using this on maybe a different platform.
Right. And I think it's good for VMware because VMware is offering multi-cloud, right? We're offering solutions to people that typically would just go run Kubernetes on AWS, for instance, right? It was just this default thing that a lot of the edge people do. But as we go mainstream now, enabling it on top of Vsphere, having the multi-cloud architecture so that you can have your workloads run across multiple clouds, and Tanzu is a big part of that, so that you can run Tanzu on any of the cloud environments. So if you're building up at the upper layer, your application has the same framework, including Kubernetes, all the way up across multiple clouds. So I like that idea that this is a true multi-cloud solution, and we give you a Kubernetes that's enterprise ready across all these clouds, and we have a community edition if you want to go that route and not pay anything. So I like the whole strategy. Speaking of Amazon, I think we're not podcasting on TalkShoe today. I'm going to have to upload the MP3 from StreamYard, where we do the video streaming, because Amazon is down. I heard that Amazon...
I saw that there was a US East outage this morning that affected services like Slack and whatnot. Now, I believe that has since been resolved, but AWS hasn't really been hitting home runs this month. I think this is the third major public outage, really service impacting outage within just a month. So something going on there, and maybe a little bit of their Q&A teams are not up to spec.
I can't really point fingers, because I know as IT, it's hard to keep systems up. But then what that tells you is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, especially if they're not your basket. Right? Like if it's in your data center, your IT systems, you built everything you need to keep things up and running. And if it crashes, it's your own fault. This is a scenario where if you've got cloud services, you better have a way to migrate them to somewhere else, because you could have an outage, which could cost you a lot of money. So interesting that they're out, and TalkShoe's out today, because
I think in some ways too, it even shows you that we're all vulnerable, right? That even the world's best. I mean, I think that you could say that AWS is up there amongst the best of the best. I mean, from the engineering knowledge, how everything's designed from literally the hardware level up for redundancy and availability and whatnot. And they still get it wrong. And that's okay to a certain extent, right? You're still going to have these occasional blimps into that. But then how does that actually apply out to, even the enterprise data centers that don't have that experience and whatnot? And what does that mean for expectations and knowing that this is the best in the world and they still have, the occasional error or whatnot? So it's something to say. I always look at it that, you're never going to run it better than one of these hyperscalers, right? Even at the enterprise level. Right, you're always the level of reliability that you're going to get is, I think, is easy to say that with an Azure, an AWS, a GCP is going to be for the most part always a little bit of a premium over what you could do even at an enterprise DC, or it would be so cost prohibitive to do it for yourself that it wouldn't make any sense. But to your point, when outages like this do occur, you do want to have some type of strategy to migrate your data or maybe fail over to another provider. Not only just with, obviously there's multiple regions available within AWS, but there could be, something would be service impacting that would be global for them. And, with our product and our cloud offerings, we're able to do that in multi-cloud solutions amongst the hyperscalers, not just with putting all of your eggs in that one hyperscaler basket.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that reminds me of when I ran a data center, which is now like 20 years ago, we had backup procedures. We had fallbacks even when the power went out. We had ways to run the business, right? You had manual processes that people could backlog orders, yeah. Right? And there's
run books, but how often did you test them, right?
Right. So, and we had manual processes for everything, and every once in a while we'd have to run through them, right? And because things fail. And so in the land of the hyperscalers, there is a need to have a way of keeping the business running, right? And you have to make some assumptions that things are going to fail, right? And that you could have an outage for a day. What are you going to do? Where are you going to run things? How are you going to run things? Is it pencil and paper, right? What is the way to keep the business running, right? When things go wrong. And in the hyperscale world, things do go wrong because it's so massive, right? Like these outages are going to happen. Right.
So the business impact of it too, as we talked about sometimes, what happens if AWS goes out and buys a competitor to your enterprise, right? And now they're starting to offer, competition among your core business service. Do you really want to be hosting your data center information with them? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know.
And then I look at the hyperscalers in that space. Like we talked yesterday, me and my son, that Google announced the discontinuation of at home, the home devices you can get at Best Buy and others. It's the Google Home smart speaker, right? And like they dumped tons of money in that. Oh, it was going to be there. It was all like you walked into Best Buy, that's all you saw was their at home product. And then all of a sudden, they're not in it anymore, right? It's kind of like Google Glasses or whatever. And so you don't know when a hyperscaler is going to go, well, this was nice, but we're not going in that direction anymore because it's not key to them. And therefore it impacts everybody, right? So having the ability to go different directions, because hyperscalers, to your point, might not necessarily be always aligned strategically with you, your competitors, and what you're offering. So it is an interesting.
Now, are they going to sunset that product? Are they going to still have it around in some way? Or are they stopping selling hardware? Or
stopping the hardware? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's what I read.
So they'll keep the service going for persons that have the hardware, but not sell net new. Right. And then you would assume they're going to, at some point, then shut off the service.
Now, this was the at-home mini, which is their big one that they flooded the market with. So I don't know. They also have the Nest products. So they own the Nest products. So they could be transitioning everybody to their Nest products. So, I might a little bit disingenuous and ragging on Google a little bit because it might also be just a product shift mix that they're doing. But the point is, you can't rely on the hyperscalers, the big guys, to be aligned with what you're doing. They get in and out of businesses depending on what they want to do. So it is interesting. All right, with that,
availability counts for something. It really does.
Right, it does. So we'll go back to day 2. We give you a 5-minute read. Then we give you day 2. We introduce you to
heavy hitters here.
Yeah, Joe Beta and Craig McCluskey, who are the founders of Kubernetes, who work with VMware now. They work for VMware, and they talk about the 7 fast facts from the founders. So you get to not only understand what it is in day 1, but day 2, you get some insight from the founders of what they were thinking and what they were doing. So also a fun article to read. So go check that out in day 2. Again, these are all light things that you can do. And then day 3, we transition into what is this for the VI admin, right? What's Kubernetes for the VI admin? How can you, run things as a VI admin? How do you do that? That's a video by Kendrick Coleman, where he takes you through kind of, I think it's a whiteboard one that takes you through some article, container integrations and architecture, right? So again, nice series to kind of start at the beginning and then take you on a journey.
What is it?
Yep.
Right. What's the fundamental architecture of Kubernetes? How are we as an org integrating that into our product set? And then how now on day 3 that we're up to of, okay, I'm a normal VI admin. I'm used to dealing with VMs within vCenter and whatnot. How do I take what is now this container service and deploy it within what is my standard, vCenter realm of things that I'm used to dealing with?
Right. Yep. Okay, good. Day 4, we're going to just rip through these. Maybe I'll slow down here. But day 4, we take you to the
Cube Academy Pro.
Cube Academy, right? And give you more things to learn, right? Again, these are kind of intro kind of stuff, like you're not running Kubernetes yet, but you get to learn things, right? And we have a whole academy there. I think you have to register, if I remember right. You have to go in and sign in or sign up, but it's free. And, then you'll probably get some spam mail, but maybe not. And you'll get into the academy where we give you a lot of training material that you can pick and choose what you're interested in learning about Kubernetes. And I think there's like maybe 8 or 10 things that you can go do there and learn.
It's a tremendous resource now. It's really, they've been dumping content out there. There's over 29 online courses right now, almost 40 hours of learning material, and 29 different instructors. This is all available over at kube.academy.
And so this first segment really gets you the learning portion, right? Through day 4, you're just going to be educating yourself and learning about it, which I think is great, right? Like it's the place to start, as opposed to me, who always just wants to get the system, install something, and then spend days trying to figure out why it's not working, right? So, or what I just
This is, now you've piqued the interest, right? Here's
right.
How we can implement it as that VI admin. Here is some of those practical applications and test scenarios that we can see over in the training courses that are available at Kube Academy Pro. And now over into day 5, it's, well, okay, now I've really had my interest peak. How do I run this in my home lab?
Right. Or I think they'll let you run it on a cloud too. They mentioned
Sure.
that you can put it on your favorite cloud if you got some extra cycles, or you have access to a dev and test environment. You can go spin it up on your cloud or spin it up in your home lab. I'm a big fan of the home lab myself. Looking at upgrading again to a faster Intel NUC this holiday season. And then an aside, Matt, just as long as we're still talking holiday season and goofing around, have you started? I mined some Bitcoin for the first time for fun using nicehash.com. And let me tell you, that stuff is completely addicting. It's a complete waste of time from an IT administration perspective, because, unless you go buy specialized hardware at like $3,000 a card, you're not going to really make any significant Bitcoin. But if you want to learn how it's doing it, nicehash.com, no sponsorship by them, just it is fun to go set up if you've got any kind of graphics card in your work compute unit, if you got a gamer or anything like that, you can mine 50 cents a day on a GPU 1080, right? Anything. I got a 980 and a 9060 that I also did it on it, and you make like 30 cents a day mining Bitcoin. But it's kind of fun to go play around if you got that for your holiday season and you really don't want to do Tanzu. You can go to nicehash.com and you can be up and mining in like 30 minutes. It's pretty easy. And you get a wallet and you can make some money, and then you can learn how all of that works. So an interesting thing. It's an aside, right? If you don't want to set up your home lab, but you do need a graphics card. So if you got a home lab and no graphics card, you're not going to be able to do any kind of mining. So note to self. There you go.
I haven't gone down that path. I think it's a slippery slope that obviously some people have made a heck of a lot of money from, but it just, to me, I'm not quite sure why, other than I think that at least initially, the learning curve seems steep. I remember years ago, it was just Bitcoin, right? And then there was Doge, and now it seems that there's the world level of currency that's out there for crypto. And then how do you mine? Where are these exchanges are out there? How you can, there's tranches now for exchanges. I mean, it's everything that a full-fledged currency that you see in any other international market has now evolved into, where speculation and shorting and whatnot. And to me, it just seems a little overwhelming. And given the volatility of some of the major crypto iterations, I just don't necessarily want to dive into that, but certainly can appreciate it from the technical aspects and those that get into it.
It is.
But I don't see myself with a giant GTX farm down in the basement with auxiliary power coming in
heating your house with your
anytime soon.
Right. That's what I would say. And all of the cards are now priced at what they can mine per day, right? So
I mean, it's so popular where the gaming aspect of it, right, has totally gone out the window. Where the NVIDIA cards are, for the average gaming consumer, are tough to come by because it's so popular.
Right. It is sad because they're pricing the NVIDIA cards at about $300 less than what they can mine per year. So the NVIDIA card, let's say, was list price of $700, you can't get a regular gaming card for $700 now, because that gaming card can mine about $2,000 a year. And so the price for that card now is $2,800, right? Because they're just pricing it right above what the total mining revenue per year could be for that card, which just means that you can't get a gaming card, video card now, because they're used for mining, which is fascinating but sad at the same time. So there you go. I heard they are disabling some cards now, and if they disable it for mining, NVIDIA breaks it, then you can get. They're trying to do that so that you could then buy a regular video card for gaming, as opposed to this card being relevant for miners. But I think
when you say it would disabling it, so that they would ship a firmware revision.
Yes. Yeah, they break the silicon that will break the algorithm and make the mining algorithm not work properly.
So this isn't a firmware level. This is an actual hardware level break.
I think so. Yes.
So yeah, what would keep you from flashing it to a compatible version, right?
Right. And I'm not certain. I haven't dug into that at all. I just read articles that said, yeah, they're coming out with new ones. So be careful which one you buy, or you'll get a card that doesn't mine. Right. But I haven't heard what and NVIDIA was making a card model number that would not then mine, which I assume and then they said they were breaking the algorithms, but I don't know if it's microcode or if it's in silicone. I assumed it was in silicone. So yeah, but I made that assumption. I don't know for sure. But interesting, that's another holiday aside, right? That if you want to do that, nicehash.com will get you mining pretty quickly. Not because you're not going to make any money, but if you just want to learn the coinage, and then they have like conversions to different coins, and you can set up bots and trade the coins and do all kind of weird. It's a weird eclectic kind of sub community. But nonetheless, interesting to learn a little bit about. I know friends have done it. Getting back to non-goof off topics, the next one
number 6.
Day number 6, right? This is where we get into setting up. We allow you to set up your lab. Or day 5 was day 5 setting up lab. Yeah.
Day 5 was the community introduction, or community edition introduction, right. I should say.
Yeah, and this one is expanding the developer toolbox with VMware Tanzu. No, that is day 6. Let's see. What was day 5? Now I'm lost. We'd like to introduce you to it, install and configure. Day 6. Expand
over to the developer toolbox within the community edition.
Right. Okay. So they take you to the developer toolbox within the community edition. Right. Cool. Yep. Then day 7, getting started, some hands-on with Community Edition, take you through day 0, day 1, and day 2 operations, provisioning, deploying. So they get you into the more complex subjects of provisioning and deploying on the Tanzu Community Edition, right? Just teaching you how to do deployment. Because the first sets is basically just getting you set up and running, right? It's not optimization for workloads and deploying workloads. And then day 8 takes you into microservices and how to deploy apps and microservices on top of the Community Edition. So now you're getting into...
You have everything stood up, right? You have the foundation built within, Tanzu. Now what do we actually do with it? How do we get apps deployed, and how do we have developers start to consume some of those services?
Right. And so that's a great one, because when you get lots of microservices, you have network connections, you have firewall, you can determine zero trust what's actually happening from microservice to microservice, so that you can kind of tell what's actually happening there, and then restarting microservices if they fail, YAML file editing. So good stuff there to spend some time learning. If there's, again, you could spend your life doing this kind of stuff. But again, a good one. Now you've kind of climbed the stack up to where you're actually learning quite a bit about Kubernetes. Eric Shanks takes you through an install and doing kubeadmin, and has written a guide from the hollow.com. So he's a nice article there. So on day 9, we show you that article. It's just more of the same, but it's from a different perspective. He does it on Ubuntu, right? So it's, again, watching how somebody's doing this, running an operating system, Linux. Very, very good there. Then we actually point you at V Spin Master's blog, 12 days of Kubernetes home lab setup step by step. So if you've never done a home lab and you want to set up you have every step to do your lab, that's a good one, right? Day 11. Which now you should be, you have a lab. This really should have been called month 11. We should have done month 1, month 2. By the time you get into the second portion of this, it's like you could spend a month on each one of these, right?
Right. That there's not necessarily a little bit of a basis here to follow with some of the introduction, but not that this has to be progressed every day, right? This is a list of daily resources that you have accumulated here together and culminated to how do we do everything within the community edition and then expanding upon it, right? So if we're day 11, it's okay, what do I do with Kubernetes clusters? How do I make the services that I've deployed earlier now available or highly available?
Right. Yeah, and then if you get into clusters, and you're building up clusters, that's how everybody runs real production, right? So now you've gone from learning.
It's not just a single instance. It's how do we make these services highly available, and how do we lifecycle?
And then you can get into brokers and like configuration of clusters. There's sophisticated stuff to do around cluster management, right? So, and if you start looking at the third-party tools that are helping you run big Kubernetes instances, they get into managing the clusters environments, right? So it's the next step up in learning how clusters behave, and then going from there. And then finally, Matt, 12 days getting started with
Docker containers. How do we take what would have been Docker containers and then move them over to the Kubernetes and consume them within the Kubernetes environment? So how do we take other containerized workloads that were developed out for Docker and then consume them within Kubernetes?
Yep. Yeah. And there is, again, more stuff out there, right? I mean, William Lem has some great articles as well that we've pointed out over time. But we thought this was a great way just to give you a very structured, if you don't have time to search, and that's the way a lot of learning is. It's like sometimes I'm amazed at how many things I have to pour through just to learn what I need to learn, because it's like collecting all these bits and pieces. And so what we really want to do is give you a vetted, and we work with the Tanzu marketing team to kind of put together a vetted list of high quality content that's really to the point that you could learn from, right? And so saves you the time of bouncing from bad stuff to bad stuff. Some of it obviously is really good stuff, but every once in a while, you have to try to filter out, what do I need to learn next? You might end up at a cluster when you haven't even learned.
Here's something I haven't read yet, right? Or an article I wasn't available. And there's a mixture here. There's community articles that we've put together, and then there's also our own blogs and whatnot, or our own videos. And then there's all of the resources that we had talked about over at the Cube.academy site.
Yeah. That's right. And our goal is, we believe that Kubernetes runs best on Vsphere, right? And so our goal is to get all, I think, 2 million Vsphere admins, out there, up to speed on Kubernetes, because we believe and Raghu believes it is the workload of the future, right? So if you look at it, it's going to be multi-cloud Vsphere infrastructure, right? With Kubernetes laying on top of that, with modern apps being managed by our frameworks, right? And then all as a SaaS service over time, right? Either consumed on-prem, but through a SaaS license, or consumed in a mixture of hybrid environments as SaaS services. So bringing all of our IT admins along is kind of like, I think that's, if you look at my job role, right? Like, I think part of my job role is to make sure that, all of our IT community is coming along with the VMware vision, right? And so this is a good holiday season way to do it.
The average VI admin might not be consuming it in production as of yet, but they will be soon. So if they take the time now to get familiar with it and understand these concepts, and deploy it in a home lab, or of whatever iteration of the home lab that they have, physical hardware, or they use an instance, a smaller instance on one of the cloud providers that are out there. the further along that they're going to be ahead in their any given career, because this is truly where workloads are going, right? It's what from the developer front, it's what they're trying to consume, it's what they're asking for. And the more familiar that you become with these underlying technologies, with Kubernetes being at the forefront, and then Tanzu supporting that, the further along you're going to be as the next step in your VI admin journey.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There's no question. And Matt, talking about holiday stuff, while we were talking, I mined 6 cents of Bitcoin today on this podcast.
I'm sure it only cost you $7 or $8,
and it only cost me 10
minute.
cents of electric. Right, for that 6 cents, I only burned 10 cents for electric, but I got about a half a cent back on heat for my house. So I get you just gotta kind of roll with this stuff, right? It's kind of fun. Matt, that leads us to it's the holiday season. Do you have any plans of learning through the holidays, and what's your where are you thinking you're going in 2022? Because this is our last podcast for the year. So with
holiday learning, yeah, I do. Actually, several things. I just found out that as an internal employee, training here is a large part of our MBOs, and I have a class on Horizon on Azure deployments for both AVS and HCOA workloads for a week, the first week of January. So really looking forward to going through that and what that means and how we can assist some of the customers. This is done in a quasi live setting with remote and whatnot. But the instructors internally within VMware, especially in the live fire sessions, are absolutely stellar. As a partner or a customer, if you ever have a chance to go through any of our live fire sessions, regardless of the product BU, I'd highly encourage the customer or partner to do so. They're just absolutely fantastic. The presenters and instructors are some of our best. So to have that opportunity the first week of January, really looking forward to it. I have personally the second half of my VCAP to complete for DTM. So I have design, but for a myriad of different reasons, I have never sat and done deploy. So I want to do that on the 7 iteration. So the 7 release before that lab would happen to go away. I don't believe we've announced when that is going to be sunsetted as part of the VCAP process, but I want to get it done, right? I have the one half of it, and then the other half, and then that would equal up to a VCIX, which is something I've always been looking forward to. So hopefully I'm able to get through that. There's some older, I won't say older, let's just say things that I haven't used as far as which in the exam blueprint. So I need to go back through and refresh myself on a little bit of that. But between getting the second half of the cap and then sitting through the Horizon offerings on the Azure platform for the first week of January, that is 2 of the learnings that I'm really looking forward to do, Eric. How about you? What do you have out there for yourself? What's going on in your world? Do you have any fun tech holiday projects that you're looking to do?
Yep. Yeah, I got a couple of them. There's just actually too many. I feel like I'm at a big university again trying to figure out which ones to do. Number one is ARM. So I did finally get an M1 for my Mac, right? I got upgraded to Mac. I know you did that, a bit ago too as well.
I did.
Spent a little bit of time with that, and then we're looking at 2022 VMworld. What we'd like to do is a series of Raspberry Pi ARM labs with ESXi on it, running the stuff that we did a couple of years ago with Raspberry Pi, but all on top of ESX on ARM, right? So spending time putting that stuff together, right, with a little AI, got to work on that, and looking forward to that because it's been on my list for all year, but we didn't do VMworld in person, so there's really no reason to do it. We are going to do VMworld in person. I think even if we have to mask up and give ourselves 3 shots of something, we're going to be at VMworld this year, and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be there with some cool stuff. And so spend some time, arming on my Mac, arming on with the Raspberry Pi 4s with the ESX on that, and getting that ready. So those are the kind of the projects I'm working on. For the holiday, did get an Oculus 2 that we're going to play with and see what's going on with the metaverse or metaverses to see if, like, do we want to have a community space in the metaverse somewhere, and if so, where? I know Tony Foster talked about him already got his Oculus and where he might go with that, so I'll try to meet up with him over the holidays and just learn a little bit about like where the metaverse is landing with regards to like properties, right? And do we, because I, on my second half of hat that I wear at VMware is the social media team, where we manage Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and blogs and places that people congregate, right? So, and one of the things that we have to ask ourselves is, what does congregate mean when it comes to the metaverse? Now, there isn't a single metaverse. So even though Facebook renamed themselves Meta, there is no single metaverse. There are just virtual destinations, and there are a handful of popular virtual destinations. And then learning a little bit about purchasing land in the metaverses, like if we need to have a property for VMware Code or for community, what does that mean? So spending a little time learning about where the next place that the young people are going to be going, because every year
Eric
or two.
Nielsen, real estate developer.
Yeah, real estate. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a real estate developer. So that'll keep me busy and keep me happy, keep me alive, and excited about that, Matt. So those are kind of the ARM, metaverse, and keep myself busy.
That's great to see, right? That's part of what is now within our product offering. We saw it at VMworld with AI and VR workloads, and you would think, ergo, of some of those operators and developers that are in that space are going to be in some type of metaverse community, right? And how do we engage with them outside of what has been our normal community platforms? And then how does that equate to help them, use what is the new underpinnings that we have with some of the announcements that we came out? So yeah, that's an interesting development to see of where we're expanding our community footprint.
Yeah, absolutely. And, William is there doing ARMS, so it's excited to spend some time with him in that space. And then we'll see. And then property ownership and what is it? I don't know, NFRs or NFTs. I can never remember the acronym for the purchasing the blockchain of a given asset. Do we need to go purchase, do some of that stuff just for the company, right? The kids these days, right? They're just all over the place. So it should be fun to spend some time, looking at that. Really, but when it gets down to it, I'm a compute guy. So, spending time with ARM is probably where I'll spend most of my time. But I'm kind of giving you the vision of next year as well. Like, what are we doing with the community? Are there virtual destinations? Are we all going to have Oculus Rifts or glasses or whatever that we're going to go to? And then looking at how to set some of that up if needed. Again, SaaS services, multi-cloud and modern apps are the top three big things. That's where our bread and butter comes from, that we'll spend our time on, right? But then some of this fun stuff is fun to do as well.
It sounds like it's going to be an interesting 2022. Can't wait to.
And I know we are at the top of the hour, Matt. So I just want to say thank you for a fantastic year with you. I've had a lot of fun doing this.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for the ability to sit through one of these episodes and be a participant to these great guests and being able to interact with them and our community as a whole. And I think thank you to the listeners. Thanks for being along. Thanks for all the tweets out there. Reach out to us. Send us a DM. Let us know what you would like to hear for either have yourself on as part of an episode, or if there was a particular topic that we haven't covered as of yet, or a particular speaker that you think that we should really have one as an episode. Happy to hear that from you.
There you go, Matt. Okay, Matt. Well, we're top of the hour, so we're going to close up. Everybody have a great holiday season. We'll be
happy
back.
Holidays to all of our listeners. Happy holidays to you, Eric, Corey, Julia, and the rest of the communities team.
And with that, have a great day.